Hey, today is the day that I start off my interviews with different people that I've met on the Appalachian Trail. And today's interview is going to be with Tin Cup and Tea Time. So I'm super excited to introduce them out to you. You've already seen them on my channel. I interviewed both of them, but now we get to talk post-trail. And so I'm excited to share that with you. I hope that you enjoy it. And I know I'm really looking forward to spending time with them. So let's get started. Did you hear that?
I did, recording
So
in
now it's
progress.
legit.
Good.
So you're still coaching soccer? Or no, hockey.
Ice hockey.
Ice hockey.
Ice hockey.
Okay.
I have a 14U team this year, so um, I've got five ninth graders and then mostly eighth graders, a couple
Oh,
seventh.
cool.
Good group of kids, very impressionable, young, two females, two ladies, good players. Oh yeah.
All right, so this is our take two of this. I blew it
Yes.
last time and we had such a good discussion. So I was so disappointed. So we need to go ahead and reintroduce ourselves. So Tin Cup, introduce yourself.
Oh, all right. Well, my real name is Steve Moser, but you don't need to know that. Tin Cup, I'm 68, and I thru hiked in 2013 when I was 56. At that point in my life and my career, I thought, hey, if I don't go now, I'm going to regret it. And then this year, I decided to spend a couple of weeks on the trail, do some section hiking, and that's when I met some wonderful friends down there. My trail name is Tin Cup. I brought that myself. Before my thru hike, we were in Boston before a Bruins game with my dad and my brothers, and there's a gear store there called Tent City. And Dad wanted me to buy something for me to take on my trip. And of course, I'm hoping it's not going to be a big iron skillet, So I directed him towards this tin cup hanging on the shelf, and he picks it up, and it's a $50 titanium cup. So my dad is like, well, tin cup, I know my butt. And the second reason for that is there's a really cool movie. Kevin Costner is a golfer, and he's trying to qualify for the U.S. Open. And his caddy gets really frustrated with because he won't play safe. He won't lay it up. He's always got to go for it and take big chances. And there's a great line in that movie when he says, every once in a while, a defining moment comes along and you have two choices. You can define the moment or the moment will define you. So that was part of my motivation on rainy days and at the bottom of big hills. So
Tea time.
All right. Yeah, my trail name is Tea Time. My real name's Tim Davis. I started the trail on April 1st officially. I retired April 1st officially and started the trail. But I actually started and did a couple of sections prior to that in February. And I couldn't wait to get out on the trail, so I had to get out there and get a couple of sections in. But Tea Time is short. T is just short for Tim. I'm on Tim time. I'm getting away from my family and doing something that I've been longing to do for a long time, and that's how I came up with my trail name.
Gotcha. All right, and so for those of you that haven't been on my channel before, I'm Caboose, and I also self-gave my name because I was at the end of my little tramley the whole time. And so part of that was because I was vlogging, and part of it was because they were just a little bit faster than me, and I didn't want to walk that fast. But I ended up getting that name probably in the Smokies, maybe. I was hiking with my brother and season one, and I asked them what they thought, and they thought it was good. So that's how I stuck with it. So, and I started on March 22nd on my thru hike. So these two, we met right outside the Smokies, correct?
in the
Cosby Knob Shelter.
Crosby Knob, that's right, Crosby Knob. And so we came into camp, they were there. I did an interview with a ridge runner, and our journey kind of kept on going back and forth. And so we started being shelter friends, and they have just been amazing people. And I just love being able to stay in contact with them. Tea Time stayed on the trail longer than Tin Cup did. And so we stayed interactive and stayed in contact, tried to check in with each other throughout the trail. And then Tin Cup got off at Station 19, and we'll talk a little bit about that because that's one of the highlights of the trip for me. And so that was also where he gifted me my pack cover. And so he has been in my ear throughout the whole trail, just giving me motivational haikus and just encouraging me throughout the trip. And so we've really developed a nice friendship here, and I really appreciate both you guys, probably more than you can imagine. But we're going to go ahead and share our journeys with you guys and just kind of share some of our stories, things that kept us motivated, and just some different things. So tell me, and we'll always start with Tin Cup, okay? So it just stays. Tell me what inspired you to do the Appalachian Trail back in 2013.
Well, I don't admit it very often, but we grew up in the North Shore of Massachusetts, and we were not too far from the White Mountains in New Hampshire. So a couple of times a year, we would be up in the Pinkham Notch area. I remember climbing Mount Shakora, been at Mount Washington a couple dozen times. But I knew since about age 12 that someday I wanted to go to Georgia and attempt to hike the AT. I remember seeing these skinny, bearded, smelly hikers, probably, I would say around 1968, 1969, when very few people actually did the AT. And it was just, becoming a popular thing. So when I was 56, I decided I was at a point in my life and my career when I was going to make that happen. And it's a long time ago for me now, but it's still something I think about almost every day.
Yeah. What about you, Tea Time?
For me, I guess it got on my radar probably around when I turned like 40. So I'm 55 now, so about 15 years ago. Me and my son, we went out and started doing some section hiking. And I live in Northeast Georgia and could be up there at Neal's Gap in probably 50 minutes, something like that.
Nice.
So it's real convenient for us to go up there and do some section hiking. And I was overweight and out of shape, like a lot of people are. But so that was one thing I knew that I had to work on if I was ever going to thru hike. And so when I turned 50, I came back from the beach and was looking at some pictures and saw how big I was. And I was like, man, I've got to lose some weight. So a goal was to lose, about 70 pounds. I was around 270-ish at the time, get down around 200. So I started walking every day and started building some endurance that way. And I really didn't vocalize it to my family and friends that I was going to try a thru hike until I actually lost the weight and I started getting closer and I felt like I was probably capable of doing it. I went ahead, I section hiked the Georgia section over 2 years, probably 3 or 4 years before I actually started my thru hike. And so after doing that, I saw that I could do it. And then I did the Katahdin in 2023, which is about 400 miles and part of the Benton McKay Trail.
Right.
And it was. I told my family and friends that I was planning on retiring, and all of a sudden, I don't think they believed me that I was actually going to get out there and do it. But and then they thought I was crazy once I told them, but yeah, I put down the date April 1st. I told everybody at work and that I was retiring. I was going to do the AT.
Something magical happens when you put it out there in the universe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
Kind of fun and scary at the same time. Yeah.
So your first,
I think you. Oh, go ahead, Carrie.
No, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was talking about kind of putting your pressure on yourself and putting it out there. When Jenna drove me to the airport for my thru hike, I flew right out of Bangor and flew into Atlanta. I tell people I flew to Atlanta and walked home. But anyway, so I told her, listen, hey, someday I'm going to call you and I'm going to be tired, sore, chapped, I'm going to be discouraged. And the first words out of your mouth can't be, well, why don't you come home? And she's like, no way. You've been begging for this. You get out there and you don't come home till you get this thing done. So,
yeah. It's nice to have that support system for sure. So your Tea Time, your backpacking experience started with Georgia and the Katahdin Trail. Is that right?
Yeah. Georgia originally. We've been started car camping when I was a kid. And we did that with my family, with my children and some of my grandchildren later on.
Right.
And so I love fishing and hunting and that kind of thing. So I've always been in the outdoors. And but really the AT was I was kind of inspired, because of the challenge and the physical challenge. I'm kind of goal oriented. I like having something in front of me and working towards that. So yeah, that was, I think, the big motivator was to get out there, and it was such a big, goal to try and do, so and I'm not finished. So
Yeah,
and I
but
guess
you've
we'll
got a
talk
good
more about
chunk of
that
it
later,
done.
but I
Yeah.
still got a little ways to go.
What was Tin Cup? What was your first backpacking experience?
Well, we did a lot of like single night or maybe 2 nights when we were kids. But then beginning around 1999, I section hiked all of New England southbound over, I don't know, not quite every year. I'd go a week or 10 days. And so I had 700 miles of the trail done southbound because I knew someday I wanted to go to Georgia and come northbound. And I was hoping originally to through hike in 2011, and those plans fell apart. But I did go down. I didn't tell anybody. Went down to Springer Mountain. It was April 1st, I think. It's a weekend. It was a Saturday. It was crowded. And I hiked to Fontana Dam. And I sent some of my friends at work pictures from Springer Mountain. They're like, "Oh, he's doing it." I only had 2 weeks then. So I've done the Springer to Fontana Dam 3 times now.
Yeah. The initial, like, I'm going to do the AT, like, what did that feel like when you first put it out there?
Well, I mean, it was like I was 12 years old. I mean, Jenna knew from, when we first met that, hey, someday this is something I want to do.
Right.
So I didn't feel like that was any pressure at all, really.
Right.
It was like, hey, I'm kind of relief, actually. I'm actually going to, this is more important than work right now. My kids are all grown. We're out of college. We're debt free. Let's go do this.
Right. Yeah. I remember we did family reunions up in East Tennessee. And I remember going to Newfound Gap and going to Charlie's Bunyan and seeing the sign for Katahdin. And it was just, I think you have to be goal oriented to do a trek like this. But when I saw that, I was like, that is so awesome. Like, I want to be able to do that one day. And then I kind of dismissed it and didn't really do anything about it. And then I started following people on YouTube and got really excited. But like tea time, I was like 243 pounds or something at the time. And that really helped motivate me and get me going, because now I had something dangling out in front of me. At first, I thought there's no way I can do that at this weight. But once I got past that and started working out and losing the weight, it really became real. Like, I can do this. But one of the things I thought the New England part, from New Hampshire, Maine, that to me is the hardest part of the whole trail. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of sayings related to AT, but one of them is when you get to New England, you've done 80% of the distance and half the work.
Yeah.
All right.
So tea time, you got something to
Great.
Oh, sorry.
But you've experienced that before you ever got on the trail. Right? Tin Cup got to experience that terrain.
Oh, yeah. I had done that all.
Journey.
That was your training ground, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had done that all southbound, and very familiar with the trail in New England. Yep.
Right. So I know the last time, and obviously we didn't record it, but Tin Cup, you didn't train at all to get ready for this, right?
Well, I joke that, I drank beer and played hockey, and that's probably really what I did. This year I wanted to get out. I've been retired for a couple of years. I wanted to get in shape. I was not in shape when I started the section hikes this year.
Right.
So, yeah.
He was moving pretty good. I hiked with him for days.
Do you guys know how long?
This guy's making me feel bad.
No, I couldn't keep up with anybody. But when I thru hiked, I started at about 2:04, and the day I finished, we stopped in Millinocket, had a giant dinner. It's only 100 miles from my home. I got home, I jumped on a scale. I was 156 pounds, and all that was left was spring steel and rawhide.
I like that.
What about you, tea time? How much weight did you lose on the trail?
I lost about 35 pounds, I guess, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
I lost 30.
30. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gained some of it back though.
I have to. Yeah. I'm
That's
still eating like a through hiker. I had to stop.
Yeah. Well, that and there's just no way you're going to burn that kind of calories when you're not on the trail. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But
so it changes as a through hiker. It changes your definition of fitness.
right.
Yeah.
So fitness is I'm going to fit this whole pizza in my mouth right now.
That's right. Yeah. That was some of my favorite parts was going into town and pigging out on whatever they had available. You know,
Yeah.
I loved it.
How long did you guys travel together? Because we met you guys when you guys were pretty much hanging together.
I think it was about 8 or 10 days, something like that.
I think it was.
Do you remember Tin Cup?
Well, it was a little bit more. It was the day I left Newfound Gap, and we met at Crosby Knob, and then it was from there to. So that was mile 200.
Yeah.
And then Station 19 is at mile 396 or something.
Yeah.
When I got to the cemetery, I was almost at the 400-mile mark. So it was It was 2 weeks. I think it was.
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
I would have thought that you guys had been traveling a lot longer together, but I think that on the trail, you build those relationships so fast.
Yeah.
And you have those connections with people. And that's one of the things I think are so special about the Appalachian Trail. But let's go ahead and go to that point. Like when you guys split, that was right around Station 19, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It was. And I had left a little bit early, a couple of minutes, I don't know, half hour before tea time. And I had gotten around maybe a couple miles, and here comes tea time. And we talked briefly, and I wasn't really at a low point, but it definitely was a decision point for me. I mean, I knew my son was buying a house. I knew I was going to be heading to the Washington, Seattle area to help with some house renovations. And I didn't want that conversation to linger. You know, you never want bad vibes to rub off on anybody else. And, you know, one of the hikers told me she was having thoughts. Thinking, I forget exactly how she phrased it, but you know, it goes through your head once in a while. But anyway, I turned around at the cemetery there, and I could hear tea time because he had passed me, and he was talking to somebody just up around the corner. And
right,
I was like, okay, well,
yeah. There was a big boulder there with a bunch of cans on it. Do you remember that, Carrie?
The what?
There's a giant boulder right there at that cemetery. Had all these cans. Somebody had put a bunch of like random. They were full cans of looked like vegetables or something all over the top of the boulder right there.
Yes.
It was really, really weird. Yeah, that was where we split right there. That was the last time I saw you. I got on a good ways and I was like, where the heck is he at?
Yeah.
And then I got a text from you like I went back to 19E. I'm ready to go home. So,
we thought we had just missed you guys because we were coming in that morning. We had I think Lighthouse stayed at the same campsite that we did. But we were only like a half a mile from getting off the road, and then we were going to stay that night. And we were so disappointed that we missed you guys because, you know, we were staying in touch and you guys had said that you left, and we were so bummed that we were a day out of that. And then we got there and here comes Tin Cup. And that was the night that we did the karaoke, which was a blast. It was one of my highlights. We had so much fun that night.
That was awesome. That was fun.
And 9 Lives was there too. So
9 Lives was there.
Yep. And Flood Pie. Yeah, it was fun. That was a really, really fun night.
Yeah, he was there the night before 9 Lives was. He was there with me and Tin Cup.
Yeah, that's what he said.
We drank some beers
that's right.
and hung out. I think we smoked cigars and
Yeah. Did you guys have any anxiety or like what were your did you guys have any like big concerns or anxiety or anything before you started your trail?
No, I was pretty excited about it, and I had done enough section hiking that in my mind, I had a plan based on 100 miles a week, and I made the spreadsheet not really as a guide, but just hey, when do I think I'm going to get near Damascus? When do I think I'll be near Harper's Ferry? And I didn't really I only did a couple of mail drops, but maybe anxiety in a different way. When I left Damascus, I remember coming into, I think it's Aikens is just north of that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Partnership shelter. Right. And But I guess in my head, I had kind of rehearsed the first 400 some odd miles, and I left Damascus, and I felt like I didn't really have a plan. So I got into Woods Hole Hostel like pretty early, like a noontime. And I spent the afternoon just saying, hey, you know what? What's the next week look like? And the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever. And, we all talk about being goal oriented. And, I always set a daily goal and a daily stretch goal. And so many times you hit your stretch goal.
Right.
And that just worked for me.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I'd always have like a dump off point. Well, like if I'm tired, this is where I'm going to stop and this is what I'm going to do. And then my goal was to reach, and sometimes I'd even go beyond the goal. Just depend. I might get there and I still feel good. There's some daylight. I'll just keep on going,
Yeah.
When I thru hiked, I don't think Station 19 was a hostel back then. I certainly didn't stop there. And there was a shelter just south of that road crossing, and it was Apple Spice Shelter or something like that. It's no longer there.
Okay.
But I missed it. And I hit the road, and I was like, hey, I'm not supposed to be in a road, So I already gone too far. And then I kept going, and I crossed that second road. I went past the cemetery. I went to Elk Creek, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I did an extra 5 or 6 miles that day. And it was, I remember it because I started March 24th, and that was April 24th. And I wrote in my journal that, today I know I have the ability to get to Maine.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you kept a journal, right? Because I remember you with us. I remember you writing stuff down.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you teach?
I did. Yeah, I did too. I kept mine on my phone. I had an app, and I didn't write in it every day, but most days, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, wasn't real involved, but just kind of bullet point kind of things, and then so I'd have an idea, kind of remember, and it has helped to reflect back. Yeah.
I think when I saw Tin Cup doing it, it inspired me to keep up with what I was doing. Mine was really, really basic. I just did like where I started, where I ended, the shelter I stayed at, how many miles I walked that day, and what my mile marker was. And then maybe a couple bullets like met this person or said goodbye to this person or whatever. And that was it. But now having it, I love it. I'm so glad that I did it.
Yep.
So,
me too.
Yeah. Anxiety for me was my brother started with me and he was going to get off in Gatlinburg in mile 208. And I didn't know who I was going to go with after. I didn't know if I was going to be solo or if I was going to be hiking with other people. And he kind of increased my anxiety because he always felt like he had messed it up for me because I wasn't going to establish a family because I was with him. But season 1 started hiking with us around mile 75. And so when he got off, her and I continued together and we finished the trail together.
Yeah, you guys seem like just a natural combination out there. It's good to see. And I remember telling you that this year in particular, it seemed like there were a lot of single women out there who weren't kids.
Right.
And it was good to see.
Yeah, that's a gentle way of putting that. Thank you.
Well.
And she told me to tell you guys hi, by the way.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. She sent me a Christmas card.
Yeah, she asked me how the interview went, and I told her that I blew it. When did you get off the trail, Tea Time?
It was August 1st.
August 1st.
Yeah.
And why did you decide to get off the trail?
I was miserable, honestly. Yeah. I got to a low that, I was not having fun. I was not enjoying myself. And I'm retired, and nobody's paying me to do this.
Right.
And although it's a huge goal, and I have all the confidence in the world I'm going to complete it.
Right.
It no longer became as important to me to finish my thru hike, last year.
Right.
And I needed it. I needed to heal up and feel better. And the heat was the worst part. The 90-degree heat. I was going to bed every night soaking wet, waking up and putting my soaking wet clothes back on, and hiking all day. And even when I went into town and I'd wash everything, I'd get in a room, get in the air conditioning, I get everything dried off, and I'd feel really good for a few hours. And then I put my clothes back on, and within 45 minutes, I was soaking wet again.
Yeah.
And I was literally walking around in shoes that felt like I was walking in the rain. I mean, it was squishing.
Yeah.
I was sweating that bad.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's just me. I do sweat bad, but I don't know if it's worse than anybody else. But I was absolutely miserable.
Right. We
The
had
bugs, the blisters,
Yeah.
the heat. I was still doing the miles. I was putting in the miles, and I was making. When you get up to in that area, I guess that New England area or whatever, Connecticut, seemed like the resupplies were really expensive.
Yeah.
When they didn't have a whole lot to choose from. They were kind of crappy, and the restaurants were kind of few and far between. And I don't know. I felt like I was no longer anywhere close to being at home. Everything had changed for me a lot,
Right.
and I was by myself now. My schnitzel had gotten off trail from her illness. So I did have a few people that I would hike with that I kind of got into, but they were doing different miles than I was.
Right.
And I don't know. I recorded it. I videoed myself, and it was tearful, and I didn't want to. I really didn't want to go home. But I was absolutely miserable.
Right.
And when I made up my mind, I called my wife, and I couldn't get a shuttle out of there. I ended up hiring a limousine to come pick me up. Yeah, and it cost me $200 and something, but I didn't care. They came and picked me up, took me to a motel right at the airport, and I flew home the next morning.
Yeah.
So I was glad to get back in Atlanta and get back to my wife and my kids. And but it's kind of after a few weeks, your mind starts getting right. You start getting healthy again.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, I really wish that I just when I came back from my daughter having her baby, I wish that I just would have came up and met you guys.
I do
and
too.
Just hiked the rest of my hike and finished, and then came back and knocked out that 8 or 10 days, that I needed to do and finish my hike. In hindsight, I wish I'd done that, but it didn't work out that way.
Right.
But I have something to look forward to this year.
That's
I'm going to go back and
starting
finish
fresh.
it up. So, yeah,
And you've got a resource up there in Maine.
You absolutely should not feel bad about not finishing or not finishing right away. And I shared this with Carrie that it doesn't matter how far you go or how fast you go. It only matters that you go. And from my perspective, following you guys along, man, you had a brutal year for heat.
It was terrible.
Way worse than I experienced.
Yeah,
you can dress for the wet, you can dress for the cold. You can't dress for the heat.
No.
I was fine with the heat. I would rather have the heat than the rain and the freezing cold. But maybe that's because I'm from Florida.
Yeah, you're from Florida.
Right.
You're used to that.
But now you dislike the heat more than you dislike the Pennsylvania rocks?
Oh, I did, I think. I got used to the day in, day out sharp at. It was terrible. Believe me, it was awful. It was those damn topos too. That second pair of topos, they were like yours. You were bragging about yours, and I bought some just like them. God, they were awful. Those things they were misshapen and rub blisters all over my feet. And God, I hated those things. I finally got some when I got to New York, right there, Bear Mountain. I stayed at that Bear Mountain Bridge Inn.
Right.
Did you stay there?
Mm-mm.
You didn't? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, I had my wife send some new shoes. I got some new Ultras.
Right.
And that helped a little, but I was still.
I don't know.
I was glad to get out of PA though.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that you could wear in PA that would protect your feet, because mine were killing me through Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you were complaining too.
Yeah.
You had a blister or two too, I think.
Yeah. My feet were killing me. What shoes did you wear, Tin Cup?
I started with boots. I was wearing a Bass Breeze. And they say the older the hiker, the heavier their footwear. And even in 2013, most of the kids were in trail runners, and I just like my boots. I never had any blister problems. Probably with the heavier Vibram sole, those rocks in Pennsylvania, though I hated every bit of those loose minefields of pole catching slippery rocks. but it may have been better in that respect. But I did switch to trail runners in Vermont because it was so muddy.
Right. You know, it's funny because they call Vermont Vermud, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally as soon as we hit the border, there was a puddle of mud.
Yeah.
But it was not nearly as muddy as New Hampshire this year.
Yeah, I remember talking to you. I texted you. I said, "How bad is the mud in Vermont?" And you're like, "It hadn't really been that bad."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
how about like the Spalding shelter in Maine, where you're walking across that bog at an elevation, and if you ever slip the foot off the bog boards there, you're in up to your knee. So
yeah, that happened to me. I was just going to say I slipped on the board. You couldn't see the board, so you had to tap your trekking poles on to make sure that the board was there. And I took a step and I stepped between two boards, and so my leg kind of got wedged in between them. And you can't really lean forward to pull yourself out because the board is hitting your shin. So I had to figure out a way to like lift myself up without leaning forward or backwards. And it took me about 30 seconds to be able to get my foot out of the yeah. And I fell in twice.
yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy. So be careful when you get out there.
I did a nice face plant on a bog board too. I thought I was stepping onto it, and I stepped right beside it and just went off into the water and face first, hard. Probably the hardest fall I had.
Yeah, I had a couple of pretty good falls. Yeah. Injuries. What kind of injuries did we see?
I slipped and fell coming out of Duncannon and did a face plant, and it actually spent 2 nights at the Doyle. So I was at the Doyle and hiked 7 miles, fell, hit my head, hit the next road crossing, got a ride into town, got 3 stitches, came back out the next day. So, and I had a twisted an ankle coming out of Lehigh Gap, and I limped into, I think it's Danielsville, if I remember right. Thinking that, man, I was really worried it was going to derail me, but I just hiked really slow for the next couple of days, and
right.
Time I came out of Delaware Water Gap, I think it was pretty normal.
Right. What about you, T-Time?
Yeah, nothing significant that needed, any kind of major. A lot of bumps and bruises and cuts, and I fell hard probably 3 times and was real sore and bruised and beat up. The following days, but nothing too terrible.
Right. Yeah, I had a couple blisters. I used the Injinji socks. Did you guys use those? The liners, the toe.
Yeah, socks? I did. Yeah.
So I was
Injinjis and Darn Toughs.
Right. That's what I used too. And at some point, I was getting toe wedgies so bad on my left foot that I took them off of this foot. I kept them on this foot, and I wasn't getting blisters. But it was so bad. Like it really was really painful. But I fell a lot, especially up in the northern part of the trail. One time I slipped and fell and bruised my ribs towards the end, and that was pretty tender it was tender for about 10 days after I got off the trail. So for about 3 weeks, but it wasn't anything that was going to stop me. Other than that, I just got a lot of bruises. I thought I broke my hand one time. I fell and my thumb came all the way back to my wrist, and it got swollen, but it didn't break. So, but you just, it's kind of crazy because you don't, you get the bumps and bruises and the cuts, and you just stand back up. And the first thing I did every time I fell was they would both look at me, and I'm like, I'm good.
Rub a little dirt on it and keep going.
Yeah,
that's right. What about
I just lay there and think for a little, am I okay? For a few, then I really kind of do a body check and then get up. And I went, I'm all right. So just keep on.
Did you guys get sick on the trail at all?
I didn't. I didn't. I get sick more in regular life than I did on the trail.
Yeah. What about you, Tin Cup? Did you get sick on the trail?
No. So my thru hike, the norovirus, was really prevalent coming out of Uncle Johnny's. And I mean, people just didn't use shelters and, stop sharing food. And I think just, basic, keep your hands clean, keep your face clean, and goes a long way.
Yeah. The norovirus was really active this year too.
Yeah.
And for the first 200 miles or so, we didn't stay in a shelter at all. And then once my brother left, because he's Captain Cautious, we occasionally stayed in the shelter the first night with you guys. That was I think our very first shelter that we stayed at.
Yeah.
And but we heard it at the very beginning, probably through the Smokies, and then it died down a little bit. And then we started hearing it again as we started further north, as the southbounders were starting to come out. We started hearing more about the norovirus, but we didn't experience it. So season 1 had a really bad, she was like had a chest cold or something at the very beginning. She muscled through that like it was nothing. Do you remember some of the people that you hiked around or that you hiked with? Do you know that you would maybe consider your extended trail family?
Really, the only significant one would be Snitzel. You know, I hiked with her for 5 weeks.
Right.
But and a lot of different people in and out. You guys mostly, you know, up until I guess Shannon. When was the last time I saw you? Was it Shenandoahs?
We were in the Shenandoahs.
Yeah, that was that at that campsite.
Because we were trying to get that blackberry ice cream or something.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Where'd you get off at in New York?
Connecticut. It was Falls Village, Connecticut.
Right. Yeah. And then there was kind of really cool. Tin Cup had somebody that he hiked with in 2013, right? And then I met him at the halfway.
Sloggy?
Yeah, halfway, the Gallon Challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Sloggy?
Was it Sloggy? No, I don't think it was Sloggy. I think it was the guy that you brought back to trail. He went on vacation and you picked him up.
Oh, Shepherd.
Shepherd, yes, Shepherd.
Yeah.
So I sent a picture of us with Shepherd and sent it to you because did he hike with you in 2013?
No, he hiked with me this year. So
okay.
First weekend out was Chatter was there, Shepherd, Frozone, who I call bodyguard, Oz, her name was Dorothy. She became Oz, and a guy named Hobbit Feet, who was out for a section. And then I came back and I met you guys. So
right.
When I thru hiked, I really was more on my own. I mean, I met some great friends, loosely traveled together here and there, but I didn't have a group that I stayed with for any, you know. There was one girl that we ended up camping in the same place through Vermont.
Okay.
But other than that, I didn't want anybody worried about me or waiting for me. And, you know, I guess I was on a mission, but I had a great social experience as well. So,
right. Yeah.
Sloggy, I remember I sent you his information, Tin Cup. He met you in the 100-mile wilderness in Maine when on your thru hike. You said you were with the British kids or something.
There were 2 British kids that ended up staying at my house for a week afterwards. Yeah.
That's it. You inspired him to hike. I mean, that was he remembers it very vividly. Now, and y'all are both in the paper industry. You were in paper industry, and he was too.
Yeah.
He had a YouTube channel too, right?
Sloggy did.
Yeah, because he interviewed solo, and I met him, but he does trail maintenance in the 100-mile wilderness. So once, like during your low points, like how did you deal with that stuff?
I talked to my wife a lot. So I was talking to my wife and my son. Both of them were very encouraging. I talked to Caboose a lot, you know, and she was encouraging too. Especially when I was, you know, just kind of feeling my way through things and wasn't real sure, you know. I really didn't have any doubts and any real low points until right there at the end. Probably that last, and really that was only like over a 4 or 5 day period. Right. I'm starting to think that I might want to go home, you know, because I just was not enjoying myself. Right. But other than that, I was pretty upbeat and I was enjoying myself. Yeah. For the most part. Yeah.
What about you, Tin Cup?
You know, on my thru hike, I never once thought about quitting. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't have some bad days, you know, but I just knew that, you know, I was just on a mission. But I do remember one day, just when I come into Maine, and I think Surprise Mountain is like the first mountain in Maine, or the last mountain in New Hampshire, something like that. And it's in the afternoon, and here comes one of those afternoon thunderstorms. You heard it booming away, right? Uh-huh. And you know the rain's coming as well. I remember shaking my hands at the heavens going, God damn it. And then I ended up at Carlos Call Shelter, and I was like, all right, I'm okay.
Yeah. I had a lot of hard days. I don't know that I had a lot of bad days, but I think that when I felt like those days were coming, I would reach out to people. Like you would send me a haiku, or I'd reach out to, you know, Tea Time or something. And just having that interaction is huge. And also having support system like you know, I hiked with my brother, Tin Man, and season one at the beginning, and then it was just season one and I, and then it was season one and Nine Lives and I, and then Rooted started with us, and then Phoenix. And so I always had, for the most part, one person with me, if not two, usually two. And it just really was huge. That was huge for me. But I don't remember having those really bad days. And I tried to put humor to it. Like when I sent you that message, Tin Cup, for the love of God, tell me that South Maine is better. Nope,
Whoops.
not yet.
Almost. Almost.
So I don't know. What about highlights? What were some of the highlights like the trail? Like what were some of your favorite parts on the trail?
I remember coming into somewhere in Virginia, and it might have been the beauty spot, but I think it was on Cold Mountain, and it was just crested a bald, and it was just this beautiful, view of the mountains in front of me, and kind of gently rolling, and you're out of the green tunnel at that point, and it was like, wow, this is what I dreamed the AT would be like. That was a huge highlight for me.
What about you, T-Time?
Yeah, I was just thinking Max Patch, and that area was really cool. My best day was Bear Mountain in New York. That was just a great day altogether. It was a beautiful day, and I was in a really good mood. I was listening to music, and I was by myself and hiked up and down. I already had a motel room lined up from the day before, and I knew I was going in there. And the zoo, and the big bridge going across the river.
Right.
Was it the Hudson?
Yeah, the Hudson.
Yeah, right there. And it was just gorgeous. Took a ton of pictures, and I was I was getting new shoes. That's where my shoes get sent. So I was really happy about getting my new shoes.
Always looking forward to something else.
Yeah, that's right. It was a good day.
Yeah, I had a lot of I love the Smokies. A lot of people don't. That's where all my backpack and the foothills. But I really like the Balds.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought those were beautiful. I loved Mount Rogers. And what's the name of that's where the ponies are?
Grayson
Highland.
Yes, I thought that was beautiful. And then I loved Franconia Ridge.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely loved it. You are going to have a blast when you get there too.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So beautiful. My daughter bought me a puzzle of the ridge, so I can't put it together. Yeah. So, but those to me, and then I had no idea the change in terrain, like the huge rocks up north and all the routes. Like I'd never hiked on anything like that before, so that was a surprise for me. Any surprises for you guys?
Well, remember we said that on the Shenandoahs where the trail is really nice,
right?
And kind of groomed, and there's signs that say no horses. And when you get to Maine, you don't have to put up a sign that says no horses.
Right. That is very true. Yep. Any surprises for you, T-Time?
Nothing that's popping in my head.
No.
All
right. What about for people that are wanting to thru hike? What would be the most important piece of advice that you would give them?
I would say, don't overplan and be flexible. You're probably going to make a few gear changes. You're certainly going to adjust your daily goal limits, either up or down. And you got to cooperate with the weather.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
For me, it was doing a lot of shakedowns. I'm kind of I like to prepare. I like to have an idea of what I'm up against, So I did a lot of shakedown hiking and that sort of thing. Tried a lot of different gear, and I'm still changing gear. I'm outfitting a new pack and stuff right now. I've had some new stuff come in yesterday.
Right.
But I'm kind of that guy anyway. I like gear. So,
yeah, it's exciting when you get new gear in.
Yeah.
What was your backpack and what is your backpack now?
Yeah, mine started breaking down. I just got a Hyperlight backpack, and I had a Z-Packs 55 liter pack, and I think I'm going to still continue to use. Need some repair done on it. I'm going to try and repair some of the webbing on it. Man, I wore that thing out, and the back of it's got tape all over it and everything too. But yeah, I just got a new Hyperlight pack in, and it's a 28 liter. It's a small one. It's got a vest on it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to know how that one is. What did you use, Tin Cup?
So, remember, I've been to Springer 3 times. It's the first time in 2011. I only had 2 weeks, so I knew it. I went down with a Gregory Whitney 95.
Big boy.
Yeah. When I came back for real, I had a Gregory Baltero 70, which is a little heavy for a 70 liter pack, but I really liked the frame on it. But it had a mainstay that came down the back of it that fit into a pocket on my hip belt. And as I came into Connecticut, that was all breaking. So I ended up with a Osprey Ether 70, which was a pretty good pack for me. I started that this year, and then I came back with a ULA circuit. So, I appreciated the lightness of the ULA, but I really enjoyed more of a comfortable harness on my pack.
Gotcha. I have a Durson Kakwa 55, and it's 55? Brand new still.
You 55?
Yeah.
You didn't have that much stuff hanging on the outside.
No, I didn't.
I ran out of room
too, but what?
I ran out of room.
Yeah, I kept on eliminating stuff. I tried to keep on figuring out what else can I do without. What about your favorite gear? What's some of your favorite gear?
Tea time.
I like my tent. I had a Z-Pax duplex. It's an older one. It's about it's 5 years old probably this year. But the thing was really comfortable, had a lot of space in it, super duper light. Trekking pole tent, there were some things about it that that I didn't love, but for the most part, I would say that's probably my favorite piece of gear.
Right. What about you, Tin Cup?
So I tell you, in joking, that it's my Tucker bag. So when the song "Walking Matilda," the swag man's got his Tucker bag, it's his food bag. So I just call them bear bags. And we laughed about the time I did a bear hang with it directly over my tent, so I could almost reach out and untie it and lower it down. But
yeah.
Yeah, you had some great bear hangs. I do remember that about you.
Yeah. We talked about this last time, but had it not been for you two in the beginning when we started camping in the same area, I would have been in trouble with bear hangs because I couldn't master it. And then once I got a couple of them, I was like, all right, I've got it.
You were so proud of yourself.
Your food for you. Let me give it back. But yeah, you guys.
What folks don't understand about all that is you're not hanging the food to keep it away from the bears. You're hanging it out there to become a deterrent so you don't get into it in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could do that now at home.
Yeah.
Those evening snacks are killing me. Like, what was your gear that you started with, and did you send anything home?
For me, I sent all of by the time it got hot, I sent everything back. Really Damascus, I guess, trail days.
Right.
Right around that, because I got there early and then I got shuttled up about 90 miles and then hiked back because I needed to kill a week. And by the time I got back, it was warm. So my wife met me up there and I gave her a bunch of, it was probably, I would say good 8 pounds, maybe 10 pounds of stuff, and really cleaned out my pack. And she brought me a few things too, but I really dialed it back.
Yeah.
But by the time I came home, I was rolling. I've got a 55 liter pack too, and I was rolling that thing down. It looked like it had a divot in the top of it. I wasn't using hardly. I was down to hardly nothing. I had it really slimmed down. It probably weighed, I don't know, 15, 16 pounds with food, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. I met your wife in Damascus at the ice.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. And my daughter.
Left my umbrella.
Grandkids.
Yeah.
And
you
left
daughter?
your umbrella with us.
Yes. Yes.
I wish I grabbed it. I forgot about it.
Yeah. What about you, Tin Cup? Did you send anything home?
I did a mail drop into Front Royal and had a 45-degree bag shipped to me, and I returned I think I had a 20-degree big Agnes bag up until that point. But that was really about it.
Yeah, I sent a lot of stuff home. I had some shipping nightmares where things never got to me. I had a 10-degree bag, and I bought a 40-degree at Damascus, and they were supposed to hold it to me and hold it for me and then send it where I asked them to, and they ended up sending it to my house.
Oh,
And I could never get it out to me. I ended up with my 10-degree bag the entire time in that
oh.
heat wave. Yeah,
I had a 45-degree bag that I got in Virginia, but by the time I got into the whites and into Maine, there were some chilly nights still. And
yeah,
that whole thing about bag rating, if you go to a 20-degree bag, that doesn't mean you're comfortable at 20 degrees. It just means you
right,
won't die.
right. Yep. Did you guys use a liner with your sleeping bag?
I did. I had
Yeah,
a cold weather one to start off with, and then changed to a lighter weight one during the summer. During the summer, that's what I use. I just use the liner, and I had a little Eddie Bauer blanket that my wife sent me, and that was all that I used. It was so hot, I didn't need
right,
anything more than that. I didn't want anything much more than that over me. So
right.
yeah.
What about you, Tin Cup? Did you use the liner?
I did. I got a liner in Franklin, and this is the same bag that I thru hiked with. But I was just cold. Maybe I don't know if the weather was colder or what, but
Right.
I was uncomfortable more early on this year.
I bought a liner and had it through Amazon and had it sent to me, but I couldn't. The mummy sizing, I just can't sleep in that. So I would put it over my sleeping pad so that
Yeah.
I wouldn't stick to my sleeping pad on those hot days because
Yeah,
that was
there you go.
Oh yeah.
yeah. And I couldn't sleep in it, but I did have one. But a lot of people use it to keep their sleeping bags clean.
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
couldn't sleep in it. So, but I don't
I
think my
love
sleeping
mine.
bag smells. People say after through hike, your backpack smells, your sleeping. None of my stuff smells.
somebody was wondering if anybody wanted to buy their gear, and I'm like, dude, you couldn't give it away.
Yeah,
I saw Lighthouse was trying to sell all of his.
Yeah, well, it might have been
He's
who
like,
it
I'm
was.
never hiking again.
yeah,
And I was like, who the heck would want that?
yeah. Now, did either one of you guys experience any uh, depression? They say that you off trail depression, like once you finish your hike, like you go through this blue section period.
I I did to an extent because I stopped. I didn't finish my hike, so I went. I had a couple of weeks there where I was really sad about not finishing.
Right,
I don't know if I call it a depression, but
right. The blues.
the blues, sure.
Hmm.
What about you, Tin Cup?
I don't think it was depression. It's more like you're kind of woods queer for a little while. You're driving along and 30 miles an hour seems like plenty, and things are at a much slower pace. I finished August 8th, and I told the folks at work when they agreed to hire me back that I thought I'd be done by September, and so I had 3 more weeks to hang out at home, and like I said, the British kids spent some time at our house, and
Right.
we got them down to Boston to fly home, and so I had some adjustment time that way, which was nice. But then you go back to work, and then there's a lot of things about the trail that you miss and you think about every day still. So
Right. Yeah, every day.
yeah,
I do too, every day,
Yeah. Yeah. I
multiple times a day. Usually
right.
something just
Yep.
sparks it or whatever.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I don't know that I experienced post-trail depression, but making the adjustment back home has been challenging for me because I went from teaching and coaching, which was a lot of, interaction with people. And then I got on the trail and I felt like I had a lot of good interaction with people. And then I got home and I live by myself. And I don't walk out my door, like I'm out in a rural area, so it's not easy to go places. I do a lot of stuff by myself, and so not having that social interaction with people, I think has really been a struggle for me. So that is, trying to figure out how to mitigate that. I think has been my biggest
yeah,
struggle. But I think about the trail and how much fun it was out there. It was even the hard days were fun because when you finish at the end of the day, you're like, look what I
Yeah.
did. Like, look what
yeah.
we accomplished out here.
Uh,
Hmm.
Uh, you know,
I,
so
I used to ask myself, and I'd ask other people, "Hey, is there anything else you'd rather be doing right now?" And at least for me, during my tour, I can honestly say no. Every day was like, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is
yeah,
what I'm supposed to be
yeah,
doing.
How did you guys get in and out of town? Like, how did you deal with the logistics of resupplying and stuff like that?
Okay, so I'm going to take this one because I was kind of hoping we get there. So one thing that I think is significantly different between 2013 and nowadays is electronics and planning in advance. I never arranged a shuttle or made a hotel or hostel reservation in advance. I hit the road. If it was time to go to town, I put my thumb out. I got picked up by lots of old ladies, and you hitchhiked into town. You hitchhike back. Whatever the AWOL guide said there's a hostel, I'd go bang on the door, I always had room. I never got shut out, and there seemed to be much more planning ahead this year. And I guess I have mixed feelings about this. The Far Out app is awesome, but I remember climbing up Snowbird Mountain in the fog, and there was a young lady hiker, and she kept whipping the app out. Hey, how much further? How much further? And it's like, I look at the AWOL guide and say, okay, I got a 2-mile hill. It's going to take me, the better part of an hour. Put my head down and hike it. So, just one more thing about electronics while I'm on it is, it used to be rude to pull out your cell phone in a shelter. So you'd say, "Hey, listen, does anybody mind if I check the weather because my phone's going to beep and all that stuff?" And I almost think it was intrusive sometimes with the amount of electronics and phone and all the stuff you're trying to get away from.
Right.
It was hard to get away from.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I definitely stayed connected with the internet, like with the phone. I mean, I was vlogging, and so I would edit at night, but I was that person that wanted to see how much further I had, what my
really?
elevation was. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it motivated me. I'm like, all right, I got 1 mile to go. I can do this. All right, guys, half a mile to go. And so Phoenix in season one would always be like, they would kind of like, sometimes they liked it and sometimes they didn't. When I say, all right, guys, we got a half a mile to go. We got this. And so I use that for motivation, but I was that person.
Well, I do remember coming. I wasn't desperate, but I was looking. This was this year. I was looking forward to getting to the shelter. I knew it wasn't too far away. And I come around the corner, and there's Da Vinci. Did you ever meet Da Vinci? Anyway, he lives on the trail, has for years. And he tells me, "Oh, you got like 0.3 to go, and an elevation rise of 20 feet." And I'm like, "Okay." Anyway,
What about you, Tea Time?
Yeah, I arranged for shuttles. I was on my phone all the time. I like the electronics and stuff. So I did, you walk into a lot of towns too. So,
Yeah.
and I did a lot of walking as well. So when I got into town, but yeah, I was arranging shuttles and Schnitzel, when we were together for 5 weeks, she was like king of that. Man, she had a down. She would have a shuttle driver sitting there waiting on us when we walked out of the
really?
woods right at the trailhead. I mean, and
Yeah.
it was like it worked out almost. I can't remember it not working out. I mean, it
Wow.
was she had it down, and then we were back at a hostel or doing a resupply or whatever. She was very organized. Yeah, but I wasn't quite that organized, but it worked out. I got where I
Right.
needed to go.
I wasn't even half that organized.
No.
The shuttles and the hotels and the hostels. That was what
Yeah.
we talked about last time. What are some of your favorite hostels that you stayed at?
You're gonna answer that one. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I liked I was Laughing Heart and Standing Bear. Let's see.
Did you stay at Woods Hole?
Yeah, Woods Hole was awesome. I love
Yeah.
Wood. That was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Neville. Neville was
Yeah.
she makes Woods Hole what it is. So
Right.
yeah, all the food was just wonderful.
We stopped
And
there. We slack packed there and we just picked up our bags and went, but we had bread and cheese while we were there.
yeah, we did that too. Yeah,
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And they were
that was
starting
awesome.
yoga while we were there. So
Yeah, I didn't do the yoga. Did you do the yoga?
no, because we
No.
just picked up our backpacks and left. We had the cheese and the
Okay.
bread and then we left.
Yeah,
But I wish we would have stayed there, but it just didn't work out with our mileage that day. But
yeah.
so two of the ones that we stayed at that I really liked was the Notch, and that's in New Hampshire. Really like that. Well organized. a young woman runs that, and she does an exceptional job. Have you ever stayed at the Notch Hostel, Tin
I
Cup?
stayed, yeah, they had like little cabins.
No, it's not a cabin. It's an old white house.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. At
Okay.
the NOC?
No, the Notch. It's up
Oh,
in New
Notch. Oh,
Hampshire.
I'm sorry. No, I thought you were talking about the knock. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's really, really cool. And then the Hostel of Maine was really cool. So both of
Where
those
is
are really
that? So some of these have changed names or,
right. The Hostel of Maine, I don't even know where it was. It was, I think it was pretty close to right when we got into Maine. And then we obviously stayed at Shaw's and did
oh,
a
yeah,
food drop.
yeah, yeah.
When you went on 13, did you do a food drop?
No, no.
Okay.
So
You carried.
I did. So I had two times when I went 7 days without resupply, and one was from Springer to Neal's Gap, and then from Monson to Katahdin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am glad we did the food drop. We stopped where they do the food drop at. I can't remember the name of the road, but there was somebody doing trail magic there.
Oh,
They
wow.
set it up because one of the guys from the Warrior Expedition
Yeah.
had reached out to them, and so they set up some trail magic. And so we were sitting there, socializing with them. I interviewed the guy Zippers from Warrior Expedition while we were there, and then Shaw's came and did our food drop. And
Nice.
yeah, I'm so glad we did that. It was pretty.
Did you go to White's Landing?
I don't think so.
So it's just a couple days south of Eight Ball Bridge, and it's a little off trail, but not far. But you go there and you ring a bell, and the boat
Oh.
comes to get you.
Oh.
If you ring the bell twice, it pisses them off, and they won't come get you.
Oh, I did hear about that, but we did not do that.
Heard about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I didn't. I never went there. I've been through there a couple times. But I never went
Right.
there. Yeah.
So, when are you starting to get back on the trail, Tea Time?
I think probably mid to late April, probably.
Okay. And then Tin Cup, are you planning any more backpacking trips?
I don't know. I not specifically, although I might consider doing the long trail or the northern part of the long trail.
Right.
That's what, about 130 miles, I think, from the main junction. Yeah, I haven't done that.
Solo invited me to do the long trail with her this summer. And so
Yep.
if I can make it happen, I want to do that. And
Yep.
then I'm going to be out in the Smokies in March for, I think, a 5-day trip. And we're going to talk Tea Time, see if you can come with us.
What part of the Smokies are you looking at doing?
We are looking, I have a map. Hold on, I'll show you really quick.
All right.
I don't want to do the AT portion again.
I have
Really?
And so,
I've done it
and I
twice.
highlight all the trails that I've already done. And so we haven't done anything
yeah.
below the AT right here. And so we're trying to figure out a way to loop that around and be able to come back. So we might start at Fontana
Oh, yeah.
and then hit those trails behind there.
Okay.
I've heard about that. So people will say, "Hey, how many maps have you done?"
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they say that
Yeah.
there's 900 miles of the Smokies that you can do. And
Yeah.
so I think I've probably done about 400 of them.
Um,
And all those were in preparation of doing the Appalachian Trail. So that was pretty exciting. I have a question, and I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but when I got off the trail, I felt like I had to did I really do that? Like, it just felt like it was a lifetime ago. Do you guys experience that? Like, I don't know. Is it just
a
me?
little surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it almost feels like it didn't happen. But I know it did.
Oh, it happened.
Cars to prove it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the fact that you think about it every day just reaffirms the fact that it
Right.
happened.
Yeah.
And I feel so grateful that I YouTubed it every day, so that I have a record of every single day that I could go back and
Yeah,
watch, which I
that's
haven't
pretty
done
cool.
yet. But I'm so grateful that I did that for that reason. So
It was a good benefit to me too, because when I came back from my daughter having her baby,
uh-huh.
you were when you were releasing your videos, they were coming out right about the time I was fixing to hit that section.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you were kind of giving me a heads up on what was coming. So it was kind of nice. My
Right.
wife was watching your videos, and she was kind of relaying. She's like, "Man, Carrie said it's going to be pretty bad, you know, when you get up to."
I tried to keep it real.
You're right.
So both of you are married. Tell me and share with us like how what your wives' roles were in all of this, how they helped you, and you know how you kept in touch with them and all that.
I talked to my wife nonstop, so pretty much for the whole time. Um, and yeah, anything that I needed, you know, if I needed something sent to me, or there wasn't a lot of that, but some. And we met up. She came and met me at Fontana. We celebrated our anniversaries right around that time. So
Right.
she came up for a couple of days when I was there, and then she came to Damascus for trail days, and we got to spend a few days together there. And that was it pretty much until I flew back home. When I went home, that was at the half-gallon challenge area right there. You know,
Right.
I got picked up there and brought back, and then that's where I got back on to. So yeah, I mean, whenever she would either bring it to me, or I would get her to send me things occasionally.
Right.
Most of the things I was picked up on the trail.
Yeah.
You know,
Definitely the easiest way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my son came up when we were in the Shenandoahs and brought his family, and he did an Airbnb, and we spent the weekend together, and he brought me a package of stuff too, like summertime stuff, some
Right.
clothes and stuff like that. So yeah.
What about
I sent some things back with him.
Right.
So I didn't even carry a battery for my phone, an Anchor or anything. I had an iPhone.
You're hardcore.
Well, it was in my pack and it was shut off unless I needed it. So when I wanted to take a picture or check the weather, I would do whatever I wanted to do. But I talked to Jenna, not every day, but maybe every other day. The first time I saw her was actually in Kent, Connecticut. Her sister lives in Kent, so she came down. That was right around June 19. And then I met her in Gorham, New Hampshire, just for the afternoon, and I met her in Monson just for the afternoon. But yeah, she was my anchor. I only did the one mail drop. She brought me some stuff to Monson. Yeah.
Yeah, and both your wives were really supportive of you guys taking all this time off, right?
Yeah, Jenna, I had actually had an experience at work that I didn't feel like I had a lot of support, and she remembers that vividly, you know. And I had weekend duty over Thanksgiving, and I had just come back from a customer visit somewhere, and I was really getting my ass kicked. And she's like, "Hey, you know what? If you want that time off, you got it. You do it." So,
oh, that's awesome.
That was good.
That's nice.
What about you, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, my wife, she's one of those people you have to kind of tell her something and then kind of work your way. She wasn't real agreeable probably at first, you know. And but she saw, you know, with me doing those pre-hikes, she was taking me, especially the local stuff, taking me and dropping me off and picking me up and that kind of thing. And she was kind of worried at first, but over time, for over several years, she kind of got used to that. Right. She dropped me off in late February in Alabama, at Flag Mountain there, right. And she cried her whole way home because it was freezing cold. The wind was whipping it. I was smiling ear to ear. I was so excited to be starting my thru hike, and then she kept calling me, "Are you okay? I can't," she's like, "I just hate, dropping you off and it's 19 degrees outside on top of a mountain. That's just ridiculous." And I was fine, but yeah, I mean, so. Yeah, she was very supportive, Of course, it was kind of like you, you said you talked to your wife and you're like, when I call you and I'm a little low here, don't say come home, You try and be encouraging, and tell me to stick it out, hang in there, and give me some encouragement. And she never did do that. She was always encouraging and do the whole thing. So, which deep down, I knew she wanted me to come home. She'd rather me be at home. So,
yeah, that kind of I want to move into if you have loved ones that aren't sure about the journey that you're about to take. So let's say that you are trying to give somebody advice about going on the trail. There's a lot of people that talk about, like their family, their loved ones, or they are fearful for them. How can you talk to those people to reassure them that, things are pretty good out there?
Things are very good out there. You
Right.
can have as much alone time as you want, or you can be surrounded by friends constantly. And I never had any experience where I was fearful for my personal safety. I mean, yeah, there's some places where there's exposed falls, or the weather's really nasty, but it wasn't like I mean, people are pretty friendly, and people are very friendly,
Right.
and the trail provides.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my experience too. Of course, this is a male perspective. It's coming from a man, but I was never, there was tons of women this year. Just like Tin Cup said, I don't know what it was like in years past, but it seemed like it was almost 50-50. I mean, there was a lot of women on the trail, and everybody was really, happy, and I don't know. It was a wonderful experience, I thought, and everybody was so nice and so pleasant to be around, and very helpful, and they would give you anything that they had if you needed it, and it's just that way. And I mean, you're always, there's going to be, some meatheads, I'm sure, but I never experienced any of that. There people talk about bear spray and guns and that kind of. I think that's ridiculous. Yeah. Don't bring it. You don't need it. But yeah, I think you're very safe on the trail.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
It's a great experience.
Yeah, I didn't meet anybody that made me feel unsafe. The only time I felt a little bit unsafe is on some of the declines in New Hampshire and things like that, and in Maine. You just have to go slow and take it easy. But the people were great. The trail angels were amazing. The people doing trail magic were supportive and encouraging. Like, I felt safe the whole time out there. Any other stories you want to share? Or
just you were talking about the steep declines. You remember the stairs? Actually, it was the big stone stairs going down into Bennington,
yes.
in Vermont. And I came through. I was approaching that. It was a rainy day, and there's a trail runner, out going southbound. He runs by, and you know how runners are when they're out, right? They jogging at stoplights and can't wait to keep going. Anyway, this guy actually went by me, stopped, came back, and said to me, "Hey, you got to be careful on that down climb there." And I was just so impressed that somebody was actually concerned about my personal safety.
Right.
That interrupted their workout to come back and say, "Hey, just be careful here."
Right. Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you guys doing this the second time.
Thank you for doing it, Carrie.
Yeah, it's there's so many great memories, and so many of them I cherished with you guys. So I really appreciate you guys doing that and being a support system for me while I was on the trail, because you guys were, every time I heard from you, Tin Cup, it just kind of gave me a boost. And every time I ran into you, Tin Cup, Tea Time, I just, I got a big smile on my face, had to get a picture with you. And I just, it just made my day. So thank you guys.
I had to laugh because yesterday, the day before, I got a Facebook invitation from this guy I didn't know. And Tim Davis. I'm like, oh, Tim Davis. Right? Tea Time. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Tea Time, when you get on the trail, you have to make sure you let us know so we can stay plugged in.
Yeah, I will, definitely.
And give you
I'll be asking y'all questions, what's coming up, and am I okay? And
you're gonna do great.
You can adjust when you're looking at far out. You remember you can adjust the scale, right?
That's right. Yeah.
You can flatten those hills out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can knock them out. Yeah. Make them look real short. Yeah.
I'm so glad I had the Far Out app.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It was my saving grace. So
I remember telling you at Uncle Johnny's that my best AT advice is it's a lot further than you think. But once you get there, you'll realize it's not as far as you thought.
Yes.
That's right.
And to touch on Johnny's, that was another really fun stop too.
That was.
We rode our bikes to a Mexican restaurant, and you were in the hotel next to the restaurant.
Yeah, I came down and met y'all at the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. And
that was cool.
We're riding our bikes over there, and Tin Cup rides right by us and is like, oh, wow. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Good for us.
Got a lot of good.
Have you seen Uncle Johnny's on the internet? They've
Yes.
rebuilt.
Oh man, that whole
Yeah.
town got wiped. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I really hope that all those hostels and all the people that are in the, those communities get to
Yeah.
rebound this spring. and
Yeah, me
get some
too.
love. Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, guys. Well, that's it for now.
All right. Thank you
we'll
so
keep in
much.
touch. You're welcome. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Have a good week.
You too.
See you, man.
I know that was a long one, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I loved talking to Tea Time and Tin Cup. They were such an inspiration for me while I was on the trail, and I am just feeling very blessed that we are staying in contact. So, like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. Until the next one, peace out. Bye.